You know,
Right?
so as I say, I think there's like all the modern pain research totally points in the direction that it's almost fucking useless to use MRI and all these things in
Yeah,
a
you
sense
think so? Why?
because very often that the pain that you experience has nothing to do with the tissue damage that you have. But I'll send you. I have such a nice
Yeah,
infographic about I'll send you a really nice video from one of the leading pain scientists
yeah.
in the in Australia. It's hilarious. Where is it? It's Lorimer Mosley. It's called Why Things Hurt, and I think it
Wenn du
explains
das hier siehst, hast du
it explains
wahrscheinlich
really
von
really well.
Smartpants gehört. Nein, dann wird's aber Zeit, diese
Felipa, no hay nada. No hay nada, tío. Luego te doy unas galletitas.
And the guy is hilarious. The guy is really funny. Yeah.
So why do you think pain doesn't really, or injuries, tissue injury is not related to the pain that you experience?
Because a lot of people that have no physical injury experience quite a bit of pain. If you look at most back pain, there's no physical injury involved in a lot of cases where people experience back pain, like none.
Yeah, that I get it, but the other way. So you have a physical injury. So you have a disc that is pronated, or and is pinching a little bit the nerve. That is causing pain.
It can.
It can cause pain.
Yeah, that's the point. I think it can cause pain. It not necessarily does cause pain, but I'll send you the graphic where you see.
And how about a degenerated cartilage?
Let me tell you in a different way. How can you experience pain in a limb that you don't have anymore?
Yeah, I heard about that as well. That's
So that's I think a lot of people think that pain is something that's local to the tissue that is hurt. Pain is a construction of your brain to protect you from like further damage or like a potential threat. And I think there are a lot of cases you can modulate the pain signal in a way in the brain, or like the signal or the interpretation in the brain that it doesn't experience a lot of threat, and then the pain is gone. So I think it doesn't make any sense to go like, hey, this thing is hurt. It's like that. It has been used for 70 years, and you see some changes in the tissue quality. That's why you experience pain. And like the data is just not giving out that information. We have so many people that have like severe knee arthrosis and have no pain at all. We have so many people that have severe back issues. If you look at I don't find the stats now, but there's a really nice statistic where you see like the back pain, like the disc issue, let's say the spinal issues that people have, and the percentages that like how they increase from decade to decade when you get older. And then you see that like so many people that have severe issues with their spine when they're older don't experience any kind of pain. So it's there is just no at least for chronic pain, no causal relationship between experiencing something like pain and how much damage there is to the tissue. To show it to you, I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it could be also that we have the science could be wrong in terms of relating pain with tissue damage. That there's some people with knee pain. They make a MRI, they get the cartilage, or maybe the how was called the menisc.
Meniscus,
The menisc is a little bit torn or something like this, and then they associated directly pain with that, and maybe it could be that is wrong. That yes, you have something torn or something damaged, but maybe that's not the cause of the pain. Maybe that's just another thing that is making your muscles to twist a little bit, and maybe that is making pain. Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it's this: you get into pain because, let's say, you screwed up something, you have an acute injury. That's where you should experience pain. If you have an acute injury, you should experience pain to most often not aggravate things. But if you start moving around like 6 weeks in a cast and not move the joint anymore, I think this is where you create all these disbalances. And I think it's more like after that, if you don't do proper rehab, you get into a state or you can get into a state of chronic pain because your mapping of your body gets distorted and blurted. And if your brain doesn't know what your knee can do and what all the muscles around the knee should be doing, I think it will be very hard to come up with proper predictions of how it should move. And if that doesn't work, this is more likely the cause of pain than having had the tissue damage. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that you say you hurt something once the healing process is over and you're still in fucking pain. It wouldn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah, so, unless it is a trauma. I think there is a big difference between a trauma, an accident that you're having, or something that with the constant repetition, you're hurting something, which is most of the injuries in weightlifting training.
I think we could really do a podcast about that, about pain science. But the other interesting thing is, and that's why I think it's so fascinating. Like one of my friends, I did like a training session with him on the rings, and 2 or 3 days later, he said like his wrist is hurting like hell, and then he went to the doctor and they took an MRI and they were joking around, and then he actually looked at the pictures. He goes like, "Oh fuck, that doesn't look good." And there's a condition. It's called is it Kienbauer? Yeah, whatever. I think it was a German doctor. You have these small little bones in your wrist. One of them is called lunatum, and in a lot of like in a bunch of weightlifters, but also in a lot of street workers that experience a lot of these bumping things. There's a condition where the blood flow to this region or to this bone is reduced, and the bone is kind of distorted. And this might lead to quite a bit of pain. But what's super fascinating for me is that he had no issue. Like he has this condition now, obviously. But what's super interesting for me is that he didn't have any kind of pain until he did something very, very specific to that joint, and that probably caused inflammation. And that's when he experienced pain. Now he has a diagnosis with it and all that stuff. And now he's in this like cycle of, okay, I know this is broken. This is probably very painful, but it has been going on for a while. But it's very interesting that he had this condition actually for almost 5-6 years, because it takes quite a bit of time that the bone tissue is actually broken down. But there was no pain at all, and suddenly it's like, oops, you do something and there is pain to the tissue, and then it's like almost like long-lasting pain or chronic pain. And it's like I think that's like another thing where it goes like, that's okay. How can this be? It has been broken before, no pain. You do something, it's still in the same state of being broken. But
so was he training before?
He was training a lot.
Okay.
He's pretty jacked and fit. I don't do stupid stuff with him if he's not.
Okay. So what is he working?
Like working out. Like he's training 4 or 5 times a week, 6 times maybe sometimes. Like a lot of.
He works in.
No, he's not a construction worker. He's a guy working at like a radio station. Radio station.
Okay.
But it's I think it's just very, very interesting that you have these incidents where something happens, you don't cause more damage to the tissue, or maybe just a little more damage to the tissue, but you go from having 0 pain to almost excruciating pain for quite a while. And it's not that the shit broke and it has been like this for quite a while. And that's why I think there's so much speaking against this theory of I can give you 1,000 examples. I told you about the people I had with back pain, a couple of them, like severe back pain, not able to touch their toes, for people that are like kind of like putting their chest to their knees, doing a couple of stupid eye drills, and they can easily go down and put their hands on or fingers on the ground again. It's just fascinating.
Like I know what you mean, but just I mean, I agree with one thing that you were saying, but another one, just you were mentioning about suddenly something that you do and then you have a lot of pain, and then I think the traditional medicine is, okay, now you have pain, stop doing what you are doing because you have pain. You need to get rid of the pain by resting and anti-inflammatories. That's 99% of the doctors will tell you that. But if you think on, you have something, this is a bone or a tendon, whatever. So you've been doing some exercises. This has been getting maybe swollen. You've seen McGregor fight, right? McGregor fight, Conor McGregor.
No, I did. He broke his shin bone, huh?
He broke his shin bone, but obviously it wasn't just because he hit something. He probably has been hitting a few times the guy, then the bone has been getting not super damaged, but maybe it was getting a little fragile inside. And then the very last drop, he breaks the shin. So it could be the same with your friend. Your friend was having a lot of training. This thing was holding all the time, but then suddenly one day, not because he did more that day, but just it was that day. And then I don't think it's that things broke in the case of McGregor, yes, but in your friend, it could be just inflamed. And then the body, normally when there is inflammation, the body sends some kind of liquid to protect, and that is creating more tension. You get that in the knees.
Edema,
yeah, the knee is pretty common when you are doing too many squats, or one squat is maybe too heavy and you push it too much, and then suddenly you get the bursitis, I think it's called. So you get some liquid in the knee that hurts a lot the knee, and seems that you have broken something here because it hurts so much. But at the end, it's something that the body is sending to protect. What you should do is not avoid training or avoid moving. You need to try to make the body to reabsorb the liquid by some kind of techniques, but also you need to learn how to move so you don't get that anymore, and trying to reduce the inflammation by doing some other exercises. Most of the people, they just stop training. They wait 1 or 2 weeks until things go back, and then they go back to train, and then they get it again.
No, I agree. Yeah, but I think that's the interesting thing is like, okay, you're creating inflammation because there's probably somewhere there is subpar movement quality, but it might not even be the case. I mean, you can increase the volume and intensity too much and still end up with being in pain, even if you move really well. It might just be the total overload is too high, or the intensity is too high. But once again, it's like you experience that pain when you squat. Okay, now you change something in the let's say in the muscular control of the joint, and your pain is gone, and it might be gone from 1 second to the other second. So that this is why I'm very reluctant to say that the pain is caused by anything else than your perception in the brain, or your stuff that your brain creates. And it can really be like this. I have so many people, I had a guy who had like a severe shoulder issue. Like he couldn't lift his arm up anymore. He has been in physiotherapy and with doctors for almost 1.5 years. And in the end, the thing that worked really well for his brain was, do I have this stuff over here? There's a nice test that we do. You have 2 different tracks that send information to the brain. One is for very soft, there's a lot of tracks that send stuff to the brain, but in regards to touching, there's one for like sharp and dull, so that you can discern something dangerous to the tissue, like a stitch, or you step onto a nail or something like that, and warm and cold. This is one track, and the other one is for like more gentle touch and vibration, all that stuff. But the only thing that I did with him was for 30 seconds, like poking him in the shoulder, and he had to tell me whether it's like sharp and dull. And he actually was even good at it. He was not super bad at it. So whatever, there was maybe not even a deficit at the receptor level, but what happened after 30 seconds, he was able to move his arm again, almost pain-free to up here from not being able to raise his arm up to here. And before that, you would go like, fuck, there's something broken in his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like it must be like a labrum, like the labrum is broken.
Yeah.
He has a supraspinatus injury. He has like a biceps injury, whatever it is, like that, everything is inflamed. And then you go like, tick, 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 30 seconds, full range of motion, almost full range of motion, no pain anymore. And it's after like a week with his wife poking him, it was gone.
So what's the explanation for that? Like what are you getting or what are you achieving to his body that this poking was making him?
You know, like I think it's hard to have a mechanistic explanation for it, but very likely his body was not like, you constantly get nociceptive signals from all parts of your body, like pain signals, but the threshold for them is very low. So my fingers, like the tissues of my fingers, they always send pain signals to my body. But there's an area in the brain, in the midbrain, where we did the stupid eye drills with, especially the periaqueductal gray. It's responsible for suppressing, like you have multiple steps in the way from the body to the brain that kind of regulate the pain thresholds. In the spinal cord, there is pain regulation, but even from higher up in the midbrain, there are strong regulators for modulating and how do you say, like suppressing pain signals so that they don't go to the thalamus and to the cortex. So what was very likely with him the case is that his shoulder, because he fell on it or whatever, it created a state of where there were a lot of pain signals initially. Then he stopped moving his shoulder and the pain signals kept on going, but there was no real, there was no pain signal from that tissue. His brain was just like constantly not suppressing the signals. And by giving him actual sharp, dull stimuli, it might be that he's saying, okay, this is actually what pain should feel like. So now we're activating these pathways again. And there's a self-regulating mechanism where it goes, okay, this is pain. The other stuff actually is not painful. And now you can move the joint again. But that's a stupid mechanistic explanation. I think we are far away from understanding what really happens at the brain level. But if you look at how many areas involved in pain processing, it's amazing and ridiculous that we don't do more research on that as well. There's more and more research, but you can do so many things. Pain goes away when you do breathing. Pain goes away when you do.
Yeah.
Like gosh, have you been playing tennis or stuff like that, or any other sport? You had like football. I have so many football playing friends. They have a broken finger or something else that hurts. They play their game. It's like nothing. The pain is gone. They can still play. Yeah. It's like you just ignore it. And I think a lot of this goes back to like, what are the mechanisms that make you ignore the pain? Like why are you not experiencing pain in that situation? Why are a lot of people not experiencing pain when they're playing and like at focusing, have this intense but like freeing focus of not paying attention to what's happening to the body? And that's why I think it's not so easy to say like, hey, it's broken. A lot of things can be fixed, you can get out of pain without fixing anything in the tissue. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think that the modern medicine is not focused on that kind of medicine. It's more focused into whatever they know since 100 years ago, which is, tissue is this. If it's broken, then you need to stop. You need to isolate this joint, or you need to isolate this part of the body. Rest, anti-inflammatories, which we know how bad can be anti-inflammatories.
If you take them for a long time, it opens up a can of worms. It's super
true. Yeah, I'm really fascinated with the difference. I experienced that when I moved to Denmark, and I kind of forgot about it. But then, and I got used to the way of the medicine in Denmark is more like a Viking style. You really need to be hurt for us to take you to the hospital, emergency room. Anti-inflammatories is with prescription. So you don't, they treat pain in a very different way. They treat sick people in a very different way than Spain. Spain, you go to, you go out of the street and you see a pharmacy in every corner. It's insane. I had to walk at least in Copenhagen, at least 1.5 kilometers to reach a pharmacy anywhere where I was living. And I lived in 4 or 5 places. In Barcelona, you go down to the street, I could see at least 2 pharmacies from any point in Barcelona, at least. It's proven. It's not something that I'm making up. You have a pharmacy in every single corner. When you go to the hospitals are full. There's always people that go because they have a cough. Not talking about pre-COVID or whatever, because you have a back pain. You go to right away to the hospital to get a RX. And I remember in Denmark, Steph got mad. She got sick, and she couldn't get a doctor that did some kind of test. They were like, no, just wait and then do this, like take some teas, things like that. Put the light down because you have some headache, and then if things come back, then is when you are coming back. And she was used to go here to the hospital and, okay, what do you have this? Okay, we'll give you this, this, and this. And she goes with 4 or 5 prescriptions from, pain relief, anti-inflammatories, stomach protector, because you also need to protect your stomach, which we also know that is bad for some other things. So there is a big difference on how to treat sick people or injuries.
I think that the first thing is that I think modern medicine is so great at fixing acute trauma. If you're in a car accident, it's amazing what we can. I think it's really amazing. I think a lot of surgeries are a complete waste of time. A lot of interventions that we do medically are like they're actually like fixing the symptom, but in the end, if you don't change anything about what you're doing, you will still die way earlier. If you're super diabetic and you get a bypass in your stomach, like a stomach bypass, or you make your stomach smaller, if you keep having your shitty diet or you start drinking Coke instead, you won't fix the underlying issue. You'll still die early. You'll probably get like a heart issues or cardiovascular issues or cancer or something like that. So I think modern medicine is really great at fixing, or it should be more used for fixing acute injury and should be way less used for trying to treat like self-made problems.
Like lifestyle problem.
We want to speak about fitness in 100 words today, but I think just the intro of fitness in 100 words is, hey, eat real food. It's like eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. If you eat that way, and then you also try to keep the intakes to levels that support exercise, not body fat. If you eat this way and you eat real food, it's very hard to eat too much. So I think by just following that prescription, most people will get so much more healthy and fix a lot of issues that they had with whether it's being diabetic or pre-diabetic. It's insane if you look at the numbers around the world of kids that are being diabetic. Like we haven't seen that 30 years ago or 40 years ago or 20 years ago when I was young. Nowadays, all the kids get sicker and sicker and sicker, and what we are prescribing to them is medicine and not movement and proper food. And I think this is where it's like I go like how the heck is this happening? And this is where I think.
Have you realized how the politics are? Like I'm pretty sure in your country is the same than in mine. They just announced the new minister of sports in Spain, and it's a guy that is obese, like extremely unhealthy and obese person. And so this guy doesn't know anything about sports, like what is good at sport for, what, why people need to do it. So that is just a clear reflection of what are the politics that are going to be applied. If you don't know anything, I can do any politics about, astronomy. I know absolutely anything. So if somebody put me as the minister of astronomy or whatever, what I'm going to say about astronomy, I have no clue. Put me in something that I understand. And I think that's maybe the base of most of the problems that then is going down. and at the end, okay, the Minister of Sport could be reinforcing the use of sport exercise for people to reduce some illness, diabetes, obesity, and things like that. But obviously, that's not going to be applied because they don't even know what is that.
Honestly, you should really read The Food Fix. It's a book by Mark Hyman. He's an MD in the States, and I think what's so crazy in most of our institutions today is, even public institutions, is the how do you call it, the industry funding most of them receive without that they couldn't survive. And what is happening, I think it was the American Association for Heart Disease or something like that, and the first product they put their stamp of approval on was a super shitty product from, I think it's Nestle, like a cheese product that it's not even 40% cheese, highly processed, and so on and so forth. And only after getting a super big shitstorm from a lot of independent nutritionists, they removed it again. But the case, or what the case is that most big pharmaceutical companies, or almost all big nutrition suppliers, are heavily involved in the education of nutritionists in the States. And then you go like, okay, how the heck should they learn something where they were able to treat diseases that are caused by the stuff that people eat, when they are taught by people that sell the stuff that makes people sick? You can see this vicious cycle of, this is not going to get any better. And if we take like people from these companies and then put them in the advisory board and as CEOs of companies that are in the health sector, they're like, I mean, it only can go wrong.
Yeah,
they have their interests, and everything is heavily funded by them. Yeah, like, well, what should happen? Of course, the recommendation.
It's ridiculous. I'm gonna show you, there is a new system in Spain it's called Nutri-Score. So they give from A, B, C, D, E. They give a grade to food in the supermarket, so people should know which one is healthier than others. But again, this is being done by, not sure what organization has done it. I can't find it.
Nutri-Score?
It's called Nutri-Score, yeah. So basically they have categorized things into groups. So with more calories, more fat, and things like that. But they have used a very old system of categorizing things. So let's see. A very old system to categorize things, that then you get things like olive oil being one of the worst, but then you have cereals, the typical cereal with sugar, but maybe not too much sugar, as the best one. I'm gonna share this. But I'll try to find another case, because there are some cases that are ridiculous. Like you have the typical, Frosties. The Frosties, they are like categorized as B, but then you get as C or D olive oil, because obviously olive oil has a lot of fat, but there are some benefits on that. But there is pretty much no benefit on Frosties.
It's so, but that's what I mean. I mean, if you look at this, and it's probably, now you go and look at the advisory board for the government, and you will see that there are a lot of people in there that are heavily involved in with nutritional companies, and you go like, okay, like everything makes perfect sense now. They want to protect their market, they want to expand their market, and now like stuff comes out where you say like olive oil is really bad, but Frosties is something good to eat.
Yeah,
it's like it's insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some cases that you can see the difference here. Found it. I'm gonna send it to you because you're the host, and I can share my screen. Okay. Can you just click on the link that I'm sending?
Are you sending it via
WhatsApp?
Okay, WhatsApp, let me check, yeah.
Yeah, and then just go to the picture. You will scroll down, and then more or less halfway through, you will see a picture.
But that, I mean, this is madness. It's madness
Yeah.
to take. People are losing all their, and I hate the word, but they're losing all their common sense. There you go, fake news.
Yeah, so then scroll down more or less halfway through. There is a picture with the ABCD and then some
Yeah, but
products.
it's, shall I share it?
Yeah, share the screen, yeah. Yeah, that one. So you can see A and B are the good one, and you have cola and squeak and some kind of salty fry nuts. It's not even like almonds. It's just like they are fried. They're with salt and some other things. And then you have sardines, which is, it could be a pretty good one, olive oil and jamon, which at the end is dry meat. But obviously the content of fat is higher, and then that's what they are taking, just the content of fat as bad food. But Coca-Cola is still a fucking B. And that's promoted by the government. This is not something that a few guys has done it.
But you know what the issue is? I just listened to a really nice podcast about, you know, Gary Tops, he wrote a pretty famous book about good calories, bad calories, and he's a big proponent of the carbohydrate insulin model. And maybe the carbohydrate insulin model is not it's not the like the final true conclusion. And I think there's a lot of things that I kind of disagree with. But in essence, I think well, when you look at when you look at it physiologically, one of the main issues is that obesity is an issue of it's a hormonal dysregulation. And what a lot of people would tell you, no, it's everything is about energy balance. This is actually a topic that I would really like to make a podcast about it, because I think so many people are misguided in their thinking. And I mean, it's almost like a no-brainer to say, if you want to get fat, you need to eat more than you spend. And this is like a tautology. Of course, it needs to happen. Like if there's nobody in the room and suddenly the room is super crowded, there were more people coming into the room than people leaving the room. But I think this never answers the question is like, why the heck do you need to eat more? And I think this is something that has not been looked enough into. But I've read some recent studies where they go like your perception of hunger, for example. If you have a very big drop of blood glucose, you're going to experience bigger hunger than when not. And now you can like play that game for yourself. If you eat, what is the first thing? There's some kind of weird, highly processed pasta, drink a Coke, and maybe eat a cup of Nesquik to it. Your blood sugar levels are going to rise dramatically, and then they're going to sharply drop off. What will happen is you'll get hungry super fast. What also is super interesting is to have your fat cells do lipolysis, so the process of breaking down fat and sending the fat out to the tissue so that the fat can be burned. It's broken by minimal amounts of insulin. So if you have any kind, or almost, I'm saying any kind, but you can have very, very little rise in insulin levels, and your lipolysis is going to be shut down. And like, I think it was 120 years ago where doctors from Austria, they were back in the days like the best endocrinologists in the world, proposed that some of the problems that we see might be due to hormonal disbalances. So if your insulin levels are constantly high because you're always eating crappy shit, your body is not able to actually burn fat in any meaningful way because lipolysis is suppressed all the time. And what you're experiencing then is if you can't use your own fat, if you can't use your own stored energy, you're going to experiencing hunger. So what they're saying is people that are like overeating, they're overeating not because they're weak or they're like weird in their brain. Like with all these blame games from the 60s, like that it's their own fault and stuff like that. They are overeating because they can't access their internal energy that they have stored. And if you can't access them, you're depriving all the other cells that need energy from having energy. And so what you need to do is you need to consume more stuff because internally your body senses that it's not getting enough energy. And then that's driving hunger. So I think this is where all this goes wrong. Is if you say it's the calories that it's because you eat the jamon and it has a lot of calories, you're getting fat. I think that's complete bollocks. It has nothing to do with the physiological regulation, the hormonal regulation that happens in your body, and that's why all these stupid things come up. Like you can drink Coca-Cola and it has a B rating. It's like a fucking joke.
It is a joke, right? Like,
I think we should really talk about that. Yeah, like seeing stuff like this, it really drives me nuts. And I really need to think about, hey, we have eaten the stuff below for like thousands of years without coming up with a population of
exactly.
highly diabetic, sick people. And within the last 40 years, where our diet changed dramatically by eating stuff from above, the Nesquik, the Coke, the whatever it is, we are creating a horde of sick kids and even sicker adults. And
exactly.
Now we say all the stuff that we've been eating for ages is very damaging to our health. Like,
that's a good point. I haven't really thought about it, but the stuff that is below the picture, these are this been the Mediterranean diet forever: cheese, fish, dry meat, olive oil. That the stuff we've been eating it forever, and the Mediterranean diet, it's been always one of the healthiest. The original one, not the one that we think that is now, which is pasta, bread, and maybe some salad. That's not the real Mediterranean diet. And then exactly above, it's all the ultra processed foods that are making people sick, and yet the government are recommending those foods to be eaten. I'm not sure what is behind that. I don't know if it's only one. I think there are two things that could affect this. One is the tremendous lack of knowledge from most of the governments, and including most of the nutritionists that are working with them, because they probably read something from 50 years ago and they keep believing that is the rule. And then on the other side, the lobbies that Unilever, Henkel, and all these companies are having over politics, over the food that we are eating, because it's way cheaper to make a Coca-Cola than an olive oil bottle. It's way cheaper. It costs nothing. You can put sugar, remove the fat, and then it's light. But then you're putting the sugar, so it still tastes good. Nobody really reads the amount of sugar, because if you read the amount of sugar that is in a cola, if you know how much, it's like four of those envelopes that you get when you ask for coffee, they give you one of those sachets. 4 of those, like who eats 4 of those at once? If you know, nobody. but then you take it in a cola because you don't really know. And see, pretty much all of those were good. They were graded well, and all of those were ultra processed. All these cereals, cookies, those things are terrible for a diet.
It drives me nuts when I see stuff like this. And you know what's also really weird is that not more people in the field are standing up and saying, hey guys, this is like, how can we do stuff like how can it happen that a governmental organization puts out regulations or recommendations like that? I don't get it. Why not all nutritionists come and say, hey guys, honestly, we can argue maybe you should eat more apples and broccoli than you should eat mackerels or sardines or whatever that is in the bottom right. That might be the case, and I'm like, okay, it's interestingly enough that might be the case, but I think that's something we could argue. Hey, what kind of real food should we be eating? But I think what it's impossible to argue that should you trade your sardines against, what is the top one here? The muesli, Weetabix, or Kellogg's, which still has a C, or the
cereals with processed, highly processed.
Yeah, it's like who on earth comes up with ideas and recommendations like that? It's like you need to be mad. And
but again, it's probably the Special K has they've been always considered as a healthy meal. I don't really know why. I guess it's because it's just they don't put any sugar. The still is just wheat and maybe corn. I don't know. But the fact of putting light, that the word light is being always considered as a healthy. Even the word eco is being considered as a healthy. Even vegan now is considered as healthy product, where what is far from being healthy. Or they could be, but that doesn't mean that they will be. At the end, it's just light. They just remove the some of the sugar. They just remove part
remove
of.
more of the fat.
Yeah, they remove the fat, right? Most of the light is
Yeah.
without fat, and then they put some kind of sugars or fructose. People even think that fructose is because it comes from fruit, so it's good for you. There's no sugar. There's only fructose. Um, I think there are some basic things that need to be taught in the school. They need to be reinforced from the government, but I don't even think that they have the right knowledge. The people that is behind them, I don't think they even have the right knowledge, because it's normally people from 60 plus, because those are the ones with experience, and those are the ones that they always get to the management positions, and those are the ones that they are not reading the new research, the new science that is behind of sugar, fructose, stevia, whatever it is. Otherwise, it makes no sense that you have highly processed food as healthy and other foods that are not processed, and we've been eating it for forever, and they are considered as unhealthy.
I totally agree. I was just looking for a picture from the sugar industry, and like how they argue that sugar is really good for you. And honestly, I'm not saying that sugar, like whatever you consider sugar, glucose or fructose or combination of both, like sucrose, is in any way bad for you if you consume it in meaningful quantities. But
it has a meaning. It has a use. Sugar and highly some carbs, it has a use, but not sitting down in the sofa watching TV. That's not the use that you need to give it to to sugar. So I'm not taking too much sugar, or maybe nothing for training. I still training amylopectin and maltodextrin, some of those things, but I would never think on. It tastes good when you mix it with Hidraforce, for example. It tastes really good. It tastes like a nice, rich shake, but I will never drink it here, sitting in my sofa, working or watching TV. I take it 20 minutes before training, and because I know I'm gonna need it. And I think that's what people don't understand, that they eat some things just before going to bed, or even in the morning before sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's a shame, and it's a shame that they're. But I think the other shame is that science is heavily corrupted in a lot of institutions. If you look back to the 60s, when there was John Chapkin, he was like an English physician, and he wrote a book that's called White, Pure, and Deadly. It was about sugar, and there was some other guys from the States, from Harvard. I can't recall their name right now, but like his hypothesis essentially was people get fat because they eat too much sugar, and the sugar consumption is really bad. Like he was internationally demonized because a couple of American scientists said all the research was flawed and bad, and they had different research. And then 30 years, 40 years later, you realize that all these scientists got massive funding from sugar industry, massive, like $50,000 a year and stuff like that. What has been quite a bit of money. And then I go like, okay, this is all like corrupt bullshit. It's that's why I hate it when science is sponsored by companies. There's always this incentive of creating science that supports your hypothesis or your product, and that's why I think it's really bad. It should be, hey, the NIH, the National Institute of Health in the States, should set out to settle the cause. They should provide all the money. Coca-Cola shouldn't be involved in that. They should hire independent scientists and design some protocols and some tests that would clarify what is actually making people fat. The issue is that's not really happening. It's Gary Tops and Peter Thiel, they were trying to do something with that in the States called NUSI. I think it was the Initiative for Nutritional Science. They had great ideas, but I think in the end it broke down, or maybe there is still NUSI, I don't know. but they funded a couple of interesting research. But in the end, I think any research sponsored by companies is flawed. It's biased, and the results that you likely get are very much into the direction that supports company needs and not the needs of the public. And that's why I think it's super bad to have all these public-private relationships in a lot of fields. I have no issue if you want to create better AI for your own company and you spend a lot of money for university and there is no public interest involved. I think it's kind of okay to do stuff like that. But I think in regards to health and nutrition and all these things, I think it's like we're creating such a vicious cycle where we make people sick, because we sell them funded food that is really bad for them. Then we need to treat them like we're giving all the medications or like all the pharmaceuticals they're taking that cost a shitload of money, and the public is paying for it again. So there's this cycle where we start making people sick, pay the companies, we give the products, it's these huge agri-pharmaceutical companies in the world, then they give the medications to the people. Like look at Bayer and Monsanto, it's the same thing. They are producing the stuff that you need to fertilize your field. They are producing, they're getting funding for the stuff that they grow. They're getting like public money for the medications that they give to people. So it's like there's so much public money involved in all this cycle. And in the end, it's about making people sick, giving them medication, actually keeping them sick till they die. And that's I think it's the system is flawed.
Yeah, it's similar similar how the dictatorships used to work when they wanted to have the population happy and quiet. So they were giving them, really stable jobs, not good jobs, but just stable jobs. They were giving them access to buy property because then they had something to be quiet. They needed to be quiet and keep working on a shitty job and probably a shitty real estate. But they want them like that. So that's pretty much the same kind of thing. We give you delicious food because you add sugar to this newspaper and it's gonna taste good. Put whatever it is with sugar, it tastes good. So people, it's cheap. It's also cheap. It's way cheaper making something tasty with sugar than just trying to make something tasty with broccoli. It's way cheaper. So then population keeps buying things that are cheap. They like them. You can mask how good or bad it is by reducing the fat. You put the light here. You put a funny dinosaur in your cookies so the kids think that you're going to be as strong as a dinosaur, whatever. They're getting a little bit fat or sick. No worries. Come to the hospital. The hospital will give you a couple of medicines here and there. You just need to take these 2 capsules every day. Not a big deal. They only cost €2 per month. So it's fine. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Keep going back to the cookies, keep going back to the pharmacy, and
it's what we see with young adults more and more. It's crazy. When I was young, I mean, I never go to the doctor. I think I have been to the doctor, I don't know when. I really can't tell you, and probably it's not super smart to never go to the doctor if you have severe issues. But like, what is the stuff the doctor needs to take care of? If you break your arm, okay, it's great to go to the doctor. If you have any kind of weird disease, it's great to have a doctor, but go into the doctor because you are overweight as a kid. It's crazy.
Or you have low energy. How many kids are taking because my kid is not paying attention to class and has low energy? Can you have some kind of medicine? That's pretty fucking normal too. And I'm 100% sure they will never go back to, okay, what is your kid having for breakfast? Obviously cookies and things with a lot of carbs. So then the kid goes to school and is totally crashed. And then is a vicious circle on low performance.
I think I told you the story, but one of my colleagues, she's a co-owner of the Starship, and her dad died really early on heart disease. I think he was under 40, and after being pregnant, she always had very low cholesterol levels. After being pregnant, her cholesterol levels skyrocketed. And she went to, I think, 4 or 5 doctors. All the first 3 said, just take a statin. It's okay, take a statin. You need to take this for the rest of your life. No worries, you will be good. The 4th one asked her what she's eating, and he said, I recommend that you eat more bread to have more Ballaststoffe, to have more, what's the English word? All the stuff that's in veggies that you can't digest properly.
Yeah, yeast, like the bacteria.
Yeah, the parts that are digested by bacteria, but it's the stuff that you cannot digest. What's the English word for it?
Fiber?
Fiber, yeah, fiber. Thank you. So that you add more fiber to your diet, because a lot of the fiber, some of the fiber is taking on cholesterol, and you're getting rid of it. But still take the statin. But it's kind of like amazing that out of 5 doctors, nobody seriously looked at her diet. They all gave her statins. And in the end, you know what was the issue? She realized for herself the only thing that she changed before and after was adding a lot of coconut oil and MCT oil or coconut oil to her diet, and she was cooking a lot with it. And for some people, it's like this short to medium length fatty acids. If for some people, when they consume it, they produce a lot of cholesterol, like really high amounts of cholesterol. She stopped using coconut oil. Within 3 months, her cholesterol levels were back to normal. And you know, and I think that's the issue that we see with so many things in medicine today. It's you go to a doctor, you're pre-diabetic, you are whatever. It's like, yeah, there you go, that's your pill. Hey, this is against your hypertension. This is a pill against like peeing out the sugar. It's like the SGLT2 inhibitor. This is this is your metformin to whatever. You get 5 pills. None of the pills will change in the end how your body is functioning, and you will suffer the consequences of having bad nutritional habits. But they're probably prolonging your life. They're costing a shitload for the public to be paid for, and in the end, you're still ending up with having all these issues. So it's a stupid situation. And the doctors, and I think that's the other sad thing, is most of them don't even get 3 to 4 hours of nutrition, whatever basics when they go to med school. I think they have 2 hours in 6 years where they talk about food. And I get it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to learn. But in the end, if you don't know how food works on your body, it's very hard to treat diseases properly.
Yeah.
Or you don't treat the symptom of the disease. And
yeah, most of the doctors, I have a few friends that are doctors or their wives are doctors. And when you talk with them, some of them they admit it right away. I have one good friend that he works in the helicopters, emergency helicopter. He actually admitted that the medicine is great for severe trauma. So he goes to pretty fucked up situations where he's really pro on injecting ketamine. So he goes to places where, you know, somebody has the leg out, the femur completely out, some situation where people is just shouting on pain. He goes, he injects this, and he says, like, in 10 seconds, that person is pain-free. He doesn't know what it is. We take it to the hospital, we fix everything, we put everything back, done. And he admitted that, but then I don't know if somebody comes with you know, some eczema in the face and they have low energy or they are obese. I don't really know what to recommend. If I take my notes from a school, if I take whatever I learn, I will just give them anti-inflammatories. I will just give them something like that's I know that it's not the cure of the problem, but that's what we've been taught to recommend.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think especially, I think the whole field of medicine should be a little bit more diversified, in the sense that if you're becoming a how do you say it, like a general practitioner, like I think a lot of the stuff that you should be learning is how to treat people with food, like telling them
basic stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basic stuff. And if we think that there needs to be a separation of that, I mean, we have to have better nutritionists, so that you go to the doctor, you have high blood pressure and like glucose dysregulation, the doctor can send you to the nutritionist, and the nutritionist will tell you exactly that. But it shouldn't work in a way that you're like, hey, your blood pressure has been risen for the last decade. Now we're giving you a pill. It's like what the heck? That's not a solution. But I think this is either we like teach normal doctors a little bit less of the fancy stuff, but teach them more, hey, like what can you do with food, and how does food interact with the body, and what are the like all the hormonal regulations of the body, how do they work, like learning all that stuff. I have a couple of friends that are doctors and are really good at like this field of functional medicine. It's amazing what you can do with proper nutritional interventions, like curing stuff where you go like, okay, I've been running around for this with 10 years and nobody could help me, and suddenly it's gone. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think medicine is not focused on prevention. It's focused on putting a patch. Then they fix this quick. We need to fix things fast. I think maybe it's how the humanity has evolved. So we created medicines to cure severe and urgent things, right? Like suddenly somebody was dying, like 200 years ago, you didn't know who was obese or whatever. You didn't know, you only knew that that person was dying. We need to fix this person quick. So maybe the medicine has been evolving into that direction, but we completely forgot about the prevention. So maybe medicine should be divided into what is preventive medicine, and then what is everything, the emergency medicine, and divide everything into two different sectors and try to treat people not when they are sick, or if they are sick, then try to go back and try to prevent everything that made them sick without giving them medicines, without having to go to the to get surgery or things like that.
Yeah, no, it's true. Weird system, stupid system.
Yeah. Well, I think the podcast for today, I think it was good like this. We talk a little bit about a hot
Everything.
topic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people has been, a lot of the people, especially that follow us, that they that follow the same trend that we are following, which is this primal diet, primal life of primal way of living. They believe in what we believe. And the more people that is out there, probably the easier that will be to change things. I think there is a lot of old school people. I think it's a generation kind of thing. We have our parents' generation, and even our generation. I think a lot of 40, 50 years old people are still believing what they learned in school, which is, if you think about it, is 30 years ago. And how many things have been changing in 20 years, not even 30, but in 20 years. Everything has changed completely. But they are still, believing whatever they read 30 years ago, which probably was written another 10 years ago, if not more. And they haven't really updated themselves. So I think there is a need for having more knowledge in the system, having more updated knowledge in the system, and changing some things. And also I think it's important not to take for granted what one figure give you. So what the politic is telling you, what the doctor is telling you, fine, that's maybe a point of view, but I think it's good that we go somewhere else and we research by ourselves. We ask to some other people and see, okay, maybe these two are saying this, these three are saying this. I'm going to find some more information, and then I'm going to try to go this direction instead of, oh, but the doctor told me this. Fine, the doctor is just one point of view.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is like going out there and doing your own research, like trying things out on your own. I think there's so much conflicting evidence and conflicting opinions out there that, and most people, I think it's not their fault, but it's hard to find to go out there and read a lot. Like, who is the time that if you're working as a lawyer, a doctor, a consultant, somebody else that works 50 to 60 hours every week, who has the time to go and start reading nutritional journals and articles? I think it's hard, and especially if there's like a doctor saying, no, it's okay, just take the pill. I'm like,
that's true. But that's why more people like us should be working out there and being a reference for those people that are busy, that maybe can do the research.
I agree.
But they know that, okay, I go to the doctor, the doctor tells me that, but I know another guy, this Basti guy, that is pretty good at some weird stuff with the nerves. Maybe I'm going to ask him about something else. Maybe he has another solution or another point of view, if you don't have the time to research by yourself.
Yeah, I think you need to find people that are like kind of credible and that you trust, and then try what they're telling you. because I can just tell you the other side for them is there are other Bastis and other Adrians out there that say the opposite of what we are saying, and that's where I think it gets really hard.
Yeah.
But I think once again, oftentimes the common sense that you need to use. We've been preaching people they should eat less fat for the last 30 years, and what happened is they all got fatter and fatter. There's probably something wrong with our prescription here. So yeah, use common sense and try. I think trying out things is one of the biggest assets that you have in your own toolbox to find out whether something works or not. I think this is for a lot of people speaking about diet. It's everybody said, all the medical establishment said, like Atkins diet, keto diet, it's crazy, you're going to die, and blah 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 blah. And now the American Diabetes Association is actually acknowledging that keto diets might be a good step to reduce weight and fix your diabetes. So I think we've come quite a bit of a way, but I think it's not yet common knowledge that a lot of the food that we eat is really bad for us.
Yeah, people don't really know which one is the healthy one. And I get a lot of the times people that is telling me, hey, look, I'm eating something healthy, and then, or unhealthy, sorry. And then when I look at it, it's like, but this is not healthy or unhealthy. So I'm always thinking, like, how come you get to the conclusion that that's healthy or unhealthy? And it's obviously because the wrong information that these people are getting.
Yes.
And obviously most of these people, they never had the the interest of searching by themselves, looking for some information and seeing, okay, I've been told that rice was always bad for you, but is it bad? When is bad? In which situations rice could be bad? They just take something that they read or somebody told them, they keep that, and they keep that for the rest of their lives.
It's so interesting to say that, and I also think this is where it needs to be way more personalized nutrition. If you have somebody that is bodybuilding, doing CrossFit, training 10 hours a week, they will, like, their muscles will like pull out the sugar out of the bloodstream like nothing. I mean, it probably doesn't matter if you eat 200 grams or whatever of rice every day or even more. For somebody that is not doing any kind of movement and eating that kind of diet, I think it might, on the contrary, it might be really detrimental. So it needs to be the situation. It needs to be like, what are you doing in your life that could probably justify a consumption of more like denser carbohydrates. But for most people, it's like, if you move 3 to 4 hours a week, like let's say doing CrossFit, doing 5 to 20 minute workouts a week at a little bit higher intensity, there's no need to add sugar to your diet or eating more crap like that. I think you get all of it by eating
fruits,
meat,
vegetables,
no sugar. And you will be well off and healthy. I agree. If you're like spending 4,000 to 5,000 calories, maybe you need to dial like spending it on, because you're doing so much sport. You probably need to play around a little bit more with carb intake and fat intake and like what is supporting your recovery and all that stuff. But for most people that are living in a regular life, there's no need to add more sugar to the diet.
Yeah. Cool, Basti. I think we have a good podcast for today. We'll talk next week.
Nice.
The topic that we were talking, the fitness in 100 words. We'll do that next week.
Sounds wonderful. Cool, Adrian.
Cool, Basti. Talk to you next week, and I'll see you in a month, actually.
Okay.
Be ready.
I will. Bye, man.
Basti, see you soon, man.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.